Main focus of the economic agenda that Vice President Harris rolled out this week, bringing down the cost of living.
Because look, the bills add up. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes, prescription medication. After all that, for many families, there's not much left at the end of the month. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food.
And it's not just about tackling inflation. Harris laid out plans to stop corporate price gouging, tackle the cost of housing and medicine, and bring back and expand the child tax credit. Joining us now, the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and one of my best friends, Rohit Chopra. Hello, Director Chopra. Good morning.
Good to see you.
I mean, so you're here in your official capacity, but a lot of the things that the vice president announced, if you will, on Friday, some of them were squarely in the camp of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. In your official capacity, can you just talk to us about this lowering costs for consumers? There are folks that, namely some of my Republican friends, not Michael Steele, but the other Republican friends I have, who have said this amounts to communism. And these are just not things the government should be doing. But the government does this every day. You do it.
We are constantly focused on the junk fees, the big prices people are paying on everything from groceries to credit cards. And I think we have to be clear with each other. I don't care if it's a hurricane or a pandemic. That should not be an excuse to jack up prices. But that's really what we have seen since 2020, 2021. We even have grocery CEOs, one CEO of Kroger, saying they make more money, more profit when there's some inflation. They can use it as an excuse to hike up prices, and often they want to consolidate more and more power to do that. So we have taken lots of actions against companies like Wells Fargo, and there's more and more we have to do to push down prices so big companies can't exploit their monopoly power.
There are a lot of aspects to this conversation which I think the Democrats missed over the past 18 months. While the economy was recovering and growing, and you just laid out a very good, I would think, and an important point to make to consumers, that as we recover, these are things we're looking at as an administration. These are things that we're concerned about. So as we tackle those things, you're still going to feel a little bit of the downward pressure on your wallets, on your kitchen table goods and things that you're going to be able to buy. The other aspect of this, which I'm curious how the administration is going to lean into the conversation, is this idea of landlords and capping rents. You have the vice president on housing costs. Let's take a listen to her in Raleigh yesterday.
Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms in price-fixing software to do it. It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices.
That to me is leveling up a very interesting conversation, and I think the Biden administration currently is looking at, putting in place some type of measure that would put a cap on the ability of a landlord to do this. Talk to us a little bit about what this would look like and what are those algorithms that you guys are seeing inside the administration that will lead her to think that maybe putting a cap on this and putting some restrictions on what landlords are able to do beyond what we see already in places like D.C. and New York that have caps on rental units, et cetera?
Well, you actually have seen a big shift in the past several years where it's not just on the coasts, but all over the country, big private equity funds, big corporate real estate investors, not mom and pop landlords, buying up so much of the housing stock and often setting up really sophisticated artificial intelligence and algorithms to coordinate on pricing, to be able to personalize rent, to extract as much out of you as possible. So I do think we have to do something about these big investors and how they may be colluding with each other. There's been a lot the past few years. We've been looking at these tenant screening companies, how they use data about you. But look, lots of state and local governments, too, are saying the rent is too damn high and everything, it is soaking up too much income, and we have to lower it.
Let me ask you a suburban mom question, which is, I've called you from the grocery store and said, I'm standing in front of the chip aisle. The chips are about $7, and then I get
big
home,
bags,
and there are 3 chips in the bag.
That's because they put air in the bag.
Why are they doing that?
Yes.
Who's benefiting?
Well, I think
Not us going.
I actually
I
like this question because here's why they can get away with it. You might see 30 different chips, but it's 2 or 3 companies. The diapers. The diaper manufacturers said, we've got to raise prices because there's a shortage. There's a supply chain problem. The supply chain problem went away. They didn't lower the prices because there's only 2 big makers of diapers. So we have to do a lot when it comes to, I think, this monopolistic pricing in all parts of the economy. And that is going to be a way where we can squeeze out some of these excessive profits and really help people.
How do you open up that door, though? Because I think the issues we put on the table right now, I have to just say, just for the moment, it is so good to actually talk about public policy.
I know, right? Just rejoicing.
I'm just there going, oh my, this is, now we can get into the nitty gritty here, because how do you, as a conservative sitting there, I'm hearing you saying, well, we've got to control, rental levels. We've got to control.
No, it's not actually controlling prices. It's actually trying to make the market work like a real market rather than a cartel.
And that's what I want to get to. How do you do that from the government's position? How the market is the market, right? That's generally how people look at it. What is the role of the government or in a a Harris administration relative to the market? Because I know folks, on Main Street, everyone talk about Wall Street, I know of folks on Main Street that are a little bit curious about what that may look like for them as well, because, all things flow down. And all the puddle is on Main Street. It's not on Wall Street. That's where the puddle is. And the puddle is oftentimes full of stuff that you don't want to step in. So how do you control for the government overreacting in the markets in trying to create this new space for consumers?
Well, I think of it as how do we save the market from exploitation and make it a real market. So, for example, at the CFPB, we are putting in place rules that make it easier to switch your bank account, switch your credit card, fire some of these companies that are giving you bad customer service or lousy rates. You look at from the labor market, the FTC has put into place to ban non-compete agreements, which almost sound facially anti-competitive. I do think that you sometimes, when a market just is on its own, it can tend toward consolidation and exploitation, and there has to be some basic fairness, and that's the role of us as regulators.
Can I ask about medical debt? Because we've heard a lot about medical debt from this administration over the past couple of months, and medical debt is something that I think a lot of working class families, just regular folk across the country, deal with. If medical debt is currently, it can count against you on your credit report, but the CFPB is leading the effort in terms of rulemaking around this. What can you tell us about that?
Well, medical debt is now turned into the #1 item on people's credit report in terms of an unpaid bill. And what we did is we looked at it, and tens of millions of people had this on their credit report. Many of them have already paid it, or many of them are stuck in some doom loop with their insurance company and their hospital, and debt collectors are using the credit report to coerce people into paying debt that they don't owe. Medical billing codes have been full of inaccuracies, so we are not going to permit those credit reports to be a weapon. So yes, we have proposed a rule to ban that coercive credit reporting and end medical bills on credit reports. Already, states have done this, and we're looking to finish the job.
Can I just, I know we got to go, but can you explain to folks at some point, maybe not now because we don't have the time, why banks charge 30% interest on credit, and then everyone's complaining about consumer debt. You know, when you're paying more in interest than you are in principal, it's harder to pay down that debt. So can we take a look at exactly what impacts those moms and dads out there every day when they have to use their credit cards in order to get the things that they need, but then they're sitting there. Not everyone can afford to write that check to pay off that $1,000 they just put on the card, and then they're staring at that money accumulating, interest accumulating on them. Can we find a better balance? Because banks right now, I'm sorry, we don't. It's not like we have 1,000 banks out there.
We do not have enough banks. You know what, Director Chopra?
We have just like a small, like you talking about in other areas. We have a lot of other areas in the banking where that.
Yeah, we have over $1 trillion in credit card debt. Many of the ways people are experiencing higher prices and inflation is through that monthly credit card bill. You're right. Many people are charged 28, 29, 30%. And the credit card issuers, just a handful of them, have all raised interest rates way more than the Fed has raised interest rates. And it raises some real question about whether they are acting competitively.
Want people out of debt.
I'm going to propose that Director Chopra comes back every other week. And we're going to talk to your staff, but then we talk about the real. No, I'm serious, because if the economy is a top issue for voters and people across the country, I think the person who is out here protecting the consumers, we should talk to him. So we're going to chat with your team. Director Chopra, we love you.
Thank you so
very
much.
much.